earlier than usual because I do need to do a few things early this morning. So I just decided to do, because I was ready to do it, to go live and do it now instead of going on at my typical time, because I do need, like I said, to do a few things. And so I am going to go a little bit early, but hopefully, I'm back. I'm continuing with it. So I'm Brian for Advice UK. I live stream every day about 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time. Like I said, today, right now, I have a few things that I need to do this morning. So I figured I'd go a bit live because I was ready. I'd go a bit live a little bit earlier because I figured it worked a little bit better instead of trying to rush it. At the normal time that I did start, I figured it would be a little bit easier to go on a little bit earlier, and if need be, I can continue on for a little bit longer than trying to rush to completion. So want to make sure you do get enough time to ask your questions. So I'm Brian for Advice UK. I live stream every day at 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time. What I do during these live streams is basically I will, hey, Dindo, thank you for the like. I will take your questions, anything kind of career related. So that can be anything like CVs. Why am I sending out CVs with no replies? Why is it difficult to find a job in the UK? How to interview. What is a one-sided interview? How to prepare for a one-sided interview? What should I do on a Teams interview? What is acceptable dress on a Teams interview? What to expect on a Teams interview? Again, applying UCAS is about just over 2 weeks from closing its first round of applications. And I do get, thank you, Alexandra, for the heart meet. That's so nice. Thank you very much. It is a lot of questions about maybe universities, programs, outlooks, how to pick a AI safe career, all those types of questions. Again, I do take occasionally questions on workplace. I've had a lot of questions on small business startup in the UK, how to get the support, where do you find funding? Do I need insurance? What do I need to look for in insurance? And other types of questions. So if you have a question or two, feel free to put it down below, because I do pick the whole gamut of questions. If you do have a question, put it down below. I do, and during these live streams, what I will pick up and try to get you answers are to questions that are relatively, hey, how are you doing? Relatively easy to answer in like a 5 or 10 minute type of question. Anything more involved, such as like CV reviews or interview support, what I'd say to you is check out my profile and contact me via the information in the profile, because simple things like CVs I can't really do on air. Thank you, Fionn. I'm pretty easy when I do these lives. I'm pretty much easy going. This is, like I say, pretty much, for the viewers when they come to ask their questions, and to kind of do it as a question and answer forum. So I just kind of provide, for lack of a better word, bit of background chatter on various topics until people start asking their questions, or something that I say kind of triggers a question for them and want to ask, and so then I will pick it up that way. So that's the way I operate. It's very, like I say, very laid back. I know a lot of people who do work night shifts. So one of the things I do, say is, if you do come, I don't expect you to necessarily participate, because I know it's, night shift, you're doing things. Hey, thank you, war leader. Thank you for the follow. And so I know you're working and stuff, so it's not always easy to pop in a question or two. So that's fine, no problem there. So because you do still learn by listening, and when people do ask, it does ask a question. It does trigger it for others because others are saying there too with the same question. So when you do ask a question, you're helping out others because maybe they can't ask because they're working and they're listening to the live stream. So it's not really an opportune time for them. But again, you're helping them to get a question that they may have answered. So yeah, so I that's the way I operate. So if you do like, please like. Hey Richie, hello, how are you? If you do like the feed, please like, please share, please follow, because when you do follow, you do get updates on my live streams and on my content. So again, it does help. And if you do feel inclined, please send gifts because it really does help me to know, what is resonating with people, what is, what people do like, and it helps me to plan the discussion, the direction of the discussion today, and plan my future content. But always remember, as I always say, it's not imperative that you send gifts. It's not a requirement. What's your question, Richie? I will, take it. Go ahead. What is your question? So again, a lot of times people will ask as I do these live streams, what do I have in my Stanley cups? In this one, it's coffee. And in this one, it's water. Because it does, when you do talk, your voice does go dry, and it is going dry a little bit for me. And coffee, of course, it's so early, I do need to be awake. So I am a coffee drinker. And the interesting thing about this, Stanley, it does hold about a pot of 10 in one of these. So it is quite interesting. So if you do have a question. Okay, so what do you just explain a little bit? I think I know what you're saying, but I just want to make sure I have the correct understanding. So are you talking about that you're underperforming at your job? Is that what it is? So are they saying you're underperforming? Okay, so you've been in the role for 3 years, so you're being underpaid. Okay. Okay, so you're being underpaid. Is this NHS by any? Are you working in like the NHS or government sector, public sector? So the reason why I ask is I'm familiar with the NHS pay banding. Okay, so you're being, okay, so if you believe you are being underpaid, it can be a very kind of difficult situation. Are you a member of a union? Hey Bash, how are you? Are you a member of the of a union? Okay, so you're U.S. Fortune 500. Okay, so you're not UK, so you're U.S. So I think what you need to do really is, yes, I totally, yeah, that's why it kind of worked out now. What you would need to do in this kind of situation, is begin to, take a look at the pay bands, gather some evidence, like you're underpaid where you are in the pay band, the years you've been there with the organization, and how long you've been in that role, and start looking, and start to really look at it. Next thing I would say to you is probably get some legal advice on this, because when you raise pay issues, it can be very, it can get very hairy very quickly. And so what you need to do is get a bit of advice on it and say, this is what, my evidence is, this is what the pay band, this is what I should, what I believe I'm being paid, this is what I'm being paid and what I believe I should be paid. What is the best thing to do? Because what you also, when you're doing that, is also look at your company's policies. There should be a policy on how to raise concerns, grievances, how to, make the employer, maybe, I wouldn't say whistleblowing, not necessarily come under whistleblowing, but some way to raise concern with your organization that you have a concern, a grievance, an issue with them, and how to do that. And then after you get your legal advice, then to speak with that lawyer on how to best approach it. And then when you do, make sure you articulate and provide the evidence to show that why you feel that you've been underpaid. The next thing, because there is there is a process with each state. Each one has like a kind of like the wage. Each state has its own kind of department on wages, and so you would just need to find the one that is oh, thank you, Mike, hat and mustache, thank you so much, that is amazing, thank you. So what you need to do then is then speak with and raise it with them and report to the state. If you can't get anywhere with them, go to your state. I'm just trying to remember what's it called. And report the underpayment to them. It is, so if you want to go, it's each one will have their own kind of Department of Taxes. And so you just report, you too, Mike, thank you so much. That is amazing, really much appreciated. Have a chat with them and then let them know you've been underpaid. Make sure you hit any reporting deadlines to report it to them. It is, like I said, a very kind of difficult thing to do. There should be a way to report, if you feel like you've been underpaid, to your state, and then make sure that you report it to them, and make sure that you follow the process within your organization for reporting underpayment to raise your issue. And like I said, before you even do that, get legal advice, because it can get very, very messy very quickly. And so you want to be able to protect yourself, because it can be one of these situations, depending on how much you're owed, and what's involved, because sometimes it could be discrimination based on disability. There could be other issues like disability, gender, that may also influence how you've been paid. And again, if those are kind of like issues, then they have to be brought up. And again, like I said, it gets messy very quickly. And what you really just need to do is, before you do anything, get some Yeah, it is. And I think there is sometimes what I do find is because you've been somewhere for a while, um, it is one of these kind of very kind of structural. And I think then that's as part of your, issue that you raise with them. You talk about, you think it's a bit of a structural issue. So again, that makes it a bit easier to approach them. And again, that's really good with legal advice to say, I think it's a structural issue because you've made these changes and you've been promoted, and but it hasn't really caught up to what you should be paid, and so you feel that you're due. And so sometimes it is a lot, how should I say, it's a lot easier if it's a structural, it can be a lot easier of a structural than it is if you're sitting there saying like, hey, look, I should be being paid X amount, but you're paying me a lot less at Y amount. I want the difference. And then it gets kind of very kind of acrimonious, very kind of confrontational. But if you say it's a structural, and this is what and if you can kind of show it to them in a very kind of logical way, this is what I was making, this is what I believe I should have been making in this year. I moved up to this position. I was being paid this, but the pay band show I should have been paid this. And so I think I should have been paid, and so I feel like I'm out X amount of dollars because of this. So can you take a look and investigate? But again, before I would do that, I would, get, some legal advice on it and find out, if it kind of, if they are resistant to it, or if it gets to be very kind of confrontational, very contentious, what your options are to take it, because your state employment office, and each state has their own employment office under different names. You can then report the underpayment to them and they can investigate, but it's usually better if you can handle it internally, because it does, once you do kind of get the state involved to investigate and to kind of raise the issue, or if you get a solicitor, a lawyer in the U.S., excuse me, to start investigating and to bring some litigation to get to pay, it gets to be very, like I say, contentious, and it's just easier to kind of get some advice, know how to approach it, and then take it from there. And that's a very good question, because it's one I haven't dealt with, but it is a very good question in my live streams. It's a new question, which is really nice. And so so in the UK, for those in the UK, if you do feel you're being underpaid, there is a way to deal with that. You can report that to HMRC. You feel as though you've been underpaid, or you feel like as though, you've been underpaid, and you've approached it with your employer, and they're just saying, it's not working. There's a couple of options. Again, in the UK, the process should be, if you're a member of the union, speak to the union about any pay discrepancies, get their advice and tips on how to approach it. Thank you, CN, for the follow. Once you've done that, read your organization's policies on grievances, because it will be a grievance in the UK. From there, you'll need to be able to show to the organization that you have been underpaid. And again, this is going to be on, showing pay slips. Hey, thank you, BBAACC. And so, okay, Ranjit, so when you say they harass and micromanage you, what's going on? So that's very interesting. What is what is going on? So what is going on? Okay, so have they told you that you're it kind of sounds a little bit, hey, thank you. It sounds like a little bit, Ranjit, maybe you're within company targets. Oh, well, thank you, Ethan, for the heart me. Very nice. Appreciate it. Exactly. And show how you're meeting it exactly. You can ask for a reconsideration, but the only risk sometimes you do face with those, is that you may be read down. She's middle management. Okay, have you been told that you're in a informal performance management? Have they told you it's like an informal performance management type of situation? Okay, so are you a member of a union? Are you UK based and member of a union? No, I can totally understand. I'm just trying to work out what's the kind of like what would be, because I've done I have a lot of experience line managing. No, okay. So what you need to do with this is one of these things, it's one of the things what you need to do is this. Again, I would say, it's an office job. Yeah. What I would say to you is this. It's get some legal advice if you're not a member of the union. Because these can be, one of these things that can go a little bit south really quickly. Read your company's policy on grievance. And also, I think you do need just to protect yourself, because these can be it can be just say you feel like, because these can go really bad really quick. Especially with managers, if you bring issues with managers, because a lot of times companies will kind of run, yes, they do. But sometimes when you do complain about managers, they will circle the wagons around them to protect them and make you the bad guy for it. So again, I think, I'm Brian, Career Advice. So let's, if you're within your targets, have those, keep that type of evidence. Read your company's bullying and harassment policy along with the grievance policy. And then what I will say to you is then file a grievance. The route that they will take to you is probably ask you to do mediation, most likely, without knowing all the kind of ins and outs. My guess is they would ask you to do mediation with her to talk through the issues. At that point, you can put in, your evidence, show that you're meeting targets, say you feel like you're being micromanaged. And that the style that she's using is not working with you, because it is, yes, and managers have their own style. For me, when I manage a team, I'm very much, because these are usually very highly educated people I'm working with, I will just say to them, just go on and get on with what you're doing, and I will just take a step back and kind of monitor what they're doing. And any issues I'll bring up in their one-to-ones or pull them aside and have a quick chat with them. And that's the way I do it, because they're pretty much able to work on their own, and really, do their own thing. They don't need a lot of kind of sitting there. Okay, J3. And so it is one of those situations. What I would say to you then is, it's probably a style, and it does. And what you sit there and say is that this constant, kind of micro, and that's part of the whole grievance, is that she's always, you feel like she's being micromanaged. She's micromanaging you. She wastes your time with meetings. It slows you down. And it's not necessary because, like, here's all the evidence. I'm meeting my targets. I mean, this is what, we've agreed for my targets. I'm meeting them. I don't understand what the issue is. I feel it is, impinging on bullying. It is it's very much very much a micromanaging, very much a bullying type of situation. I don't think, this is necessary. Other managers do not, manage this way. I don't feel that it is a very productive way to be managed, and you kind of present them with the evidence. It will probably, like I say, result in a probably a mediation meeting with them to see how things are going, to kind of work out probably some boundaries with her, to kind of let you go on for you to explain to her. I think it is, I think in this kind of situation, a lot of times when it comes to mediation, I actually trained as for myself, I actually trained as an employment mediator. A lot of times organizations will not, HR won't do it. They will hire somebody to bring them in to mediate, to do employment mediation and work through the issues. And so, so what I would just say is, the way to resolve the issue is, like I said, file a grievance. Read your bullying and harassment policy, read the grievance or anything else that you think may be at play, and then write a grievance. And it probably would just say, if they give you the option to go informal or formal, if you don't want to go through HR, and you just feel like this is really unbearable, the other thing, again, why I say it's looking at taking legal advice, it can be considered potentially, and again, not knowing all the situations. Hey, AB, thank you for the share. It is potentially, and again, legal advice is, really prudent here, is it's constructive dismissal, which means you've been dismissed through the back door. It is, one of the, issues, constructive dismissal means that you've been dismissed without being dismissed. And so they sit there, bully you, they harass you. They won't let you kind of be and do your job type of thing. So again, legal advice, and this is why I say legal advice, it could be potentially, if you don't think you can resolve it internally, it can be potentially, and like I say, the potential is constructive dismissal. And seeing this is, again, another thing. You can do that. A lot of times they will give you 30 minutes, like some will give you 30 minutes free legal advice. And you can usually just take that and not come back. It is, and if you have sometimes, if you have renter's insurance, if you rent or own, a lot of times there is legal advice, if you have taken out legal coverage, it will also pay for things like that. So if you have it, those are the two ways. So again, like I said, they give you 30 minutes, take advantage of it. And there's also ACAS. ACAS is another one that can help mediate. I used them once. I kind of found them to be a bit useless. But again, ACAS is there. They do offer free mediation service. That can also help. There is, and sometimes, there are other options. But I think if you feel like, raising a grievance is not an issue. Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I haven't used ACAS. Recommend them because I did find them when I did use them once several years ago for a situation. They were utterly useless. but there are options, bringing in a mediator, business bringing in a mediator, an external mediator who's not HR or related to the business, so they have no interest. Yep, Ranjit. Yeah, so I would say to you is, option one would get, like I said, take advantage of free legal advice. If you have renters or if you're a homeowner and you have personal legal coverage with that policy, it does it may cover any type of legal and that end. And also, it is one option. The other option is going down the grievance route. Like I said, most likely they would, do a mediation. Whistleblowing, I don't think it would fall under whistleblowing unless it had something that would come out in the papers. That would, if it came out in the papers, would be kind of damaging to the organization. So they do offer that. But I don't think it would. And again, and I think, Richie does raise a good point there. There's mental health issues. So again, stress. And again, legal, if you go down the legal route, sometimes they can help you with raising those issues and concerns. If you don't want to go down the grievance route and you think that it is kind of very hostile, the only other thing I can think of is trying a constructive dismissal, which is very hard, in my opinion, to really prove or win, but it is an option. And again, legal advice would be able to point you in that direction. The other one would be, the other option for you would be, to start looking. It's really hard to say, Ranjit, without really knowing more. I think you could try to have a conversation, but at least from my experience, when you have those kind of conversations, they don't always come out as good, especially if it's done just the two of you, because she can sit there and make up things. And so I would say if you would go into confront her again and talk to her, I think, again, that would be what mediation would be, because you do have witnesses. It does get, noted. It's, there is notes taken and stuff. So she would be, required to follow the outcome of mediation. Yeah. She does, if she does get emotional, again, I really do think, it is probably another indication, speaking her alone without having someone around may not be the best option, for her to go, because like I said, if she gets emotional and gets upset, then it's really easy for her to start accusing you of, being aggressive. It's, being aggressive, making comments that you didn't make because there's no one to witness it. So if you're going to have any type of conversation with her, make sure you do have people who can witness it. Otherwise, it may make your situation a lot worse. Mm. Yeah, so if she's not leaving it, again, what I would always would say then, if you ask her to provide you something, and she's not providing it, then, after you've asked maybe once or twice, then CC, what I always do in those situations, then CC in her line manager. Exactly. So again, emails. So again, you do have evidence of emails. And again, if you do ask her for something and she's not doing it, just CC in her line manager. You know, say, I've asked you on this date for this. On this date, I chased you. I do need this, and just CC into line manager. And sometimes, that's another way to approach it, would be, line manager, CC in line manager. So, line manager. So again, sometimes it can be as simple as a CC to her line manager with the issues and chasing. So yeah. So if you do, it is office politics. It's really tiring, and it does take a lot out, and it does really, and it really does get you down. And it is, I think, in this competitive market, it's really hard to really want to leave. And so I think for you, I think the best thing, if you can, try to stay with the organization until employment situation improves. Because if you don't, you may find that you spend a while looking for a job. Yeah, it is. Because if you start documenting stuff and you do raise a grievance, I would say, again, legal advice would be helpful, because I think after you raise it, you have 3 months to take it to tribunal. It is really hard, and I've been applying because my other contract came to an end, and luckily I got another one, but that's only going to be part-time. When I've started to apply, the one thing I did find is you really have to tick every box. Otherwise, if you don't have one, even a minor one, it's probably going to be the one that prevents you from getting that interview. Because I've had a couple where I applied and I was on the periphery of it. And you can also, there's like community law service, there's also Citizens Advice Bureau, but Citizens Advice Bureau, it can take a while to get, and they're not always on top of things. I've used them for one or two things, and they're really friendly. They want to help, but the information and advice you get is really dependent on who you get. They don't nail employment disputes. They can kind of give you some they do, like immigration, they do some kind of like quasi-legal stuff. They can kind of talk to you a little bit about workplace disputes and how to kind of manage them, but they're not, really good on. They can give some good advice, but I'm not always convinced that it's always the right or the best. But they are always a good free service to use when you're looking and trying to get some help. So that's one way if you're looking for some legal advice or some legal tips. Some kind of workplace related issues, CAB could be a potential for you. So yeah, so that is another option, is an advice bureau for yourself. So yeah, so if you're just joining, you do like the feed, please like, please share, and please follow. If you're just joining, been having a very kind of long and interesting discussion today. Today we have talked about, which is very interesting for me, workplace. Hey, Joel, thank you. No problem, Ranjit. That's what I'm here for, and what the purpose of this whole live stream is. To do is to bring in, to get people to help out others, and to really, talk about, why, and this is really the purpose, is to get people, it is, yep. And that's the whole purpose. It's to kind of, people bring into questions, and people, who are, part of the live, responding and giving them, the support that they need, share their experiences to help them out, because I can provide one perspective, but others have also, as you sit there, and you have your own experiences, and it's good to share that so people understand multiple perspectives. And today has been a really interesting, day today, because we have spent, this is one of these things. I'll be right to you. It's and so it is, the purpose of this is for people to ask questions. This is really good. So what I would say before you do your career change, it's a couple of things. Because if you want to do a career change, there's a couple of routes you can go. You don't necessarily need to quit your job to do a career change. If you want to do a career change, is what I always say is start with a skills assessment. And again, and what does that mean? Is really sitting down and thinking about, the skills you already have. And think about the skills you already have. List those skills you already have, where you've got from education, your education experience and stuff. And then start to look at those, and start to look at the careers that you want to move to. And sometimes when you do look at them, you will find that you already have the skills. And so it may just mean that all you have to do simply is just reformat your CV into a functional CV and focus on those skills. If you don't, then what you really need to do is start to look at where can you get those additional skills. Can you do it through like a training program? Can you pick it in your current job by maybe doing a sidestep, in your career, or just it will be something that you'll pick up at a later date in your job. So really think about where can you get those additional skills if you feel there's a gap. And then what you need to start to do is, start looking. And again, if you can do it, if you're risk adverse, what you really need to do is do a functional CV, put a functional CV together with highlighting your skills, start applying, and just keep it really low key. And when you make those contacts to the agency, to the potential employers, just say to them like, look, I'm just kind of feeling the waters here. And I don't need you contacting my employer until, an offer's on the table. And a lot of times if you're doing like online applications, they'll ask, do you want, can we contact them prior to the interview? And I always check no. So, and if you are looking to do a career change, what you need to be, and you want to keep, minimize risk to yourself, You really need to keep it off of social media. You need to keep it from your friends, your colleagues, and just keep it to yourself, because the second someone finds out that you're looking to make a career change or make a change, it gets spread like wildfire. And then a lot of Chinese whispers start. And at that point, it becomes, very difficult to contain. And depending on the organization, they may actually look to kind of help you out the door type of thing. So you may wind up actually losing your job. So you really need to be, very discreet about it. And again, if you're doing a career change, it may mean that you can't operate at the same level you do. You may have to take a little bit of a step down to gain a little bit of experience. Yeah, so I think if you're thinking, I think what you need to think about maybe is then, think about like retraining. Think about, what is it that you want to do. So sometimes you can do, some courses online, at your time. Your employer may have a policy on, further training and development that may give you time off to do like a university course or some training. So again, take a look at those. Hey, Smithy, good to see you. And so take a look at those. Yes, exactly. And so if you're looking at a career change, really start to think about what is it that you want to do. What is it what you want to do? What do you already have in those skills? And what skills do you need to get, and how will you get them? And I think that is really the questions, And it is, if your job offers training, then what you really need to do then is to start. Start with your job and seeing the training that they can give to you, what they can provide for you. Because, hey, Mo, good to see you. So, take a look, ask the questions, and then, start to plan for it. Once you feel like you kind of have the skills, for the job that you want, then start to apply. Again, like I say, take a look and think about, be also kind of do a bit. Yeah, I'm UK based, as my name says. And I kind of mentioned that in the beginning too, really at the early beginning. I come on this time because I'm up. No, I'm not in the States, UK. I come on this time because usually I'm up, because you don't see off camera, but I do have my dog. My dog gets up about 3 usually, and so feed it, and then come on to live. And this morning I started a bit earlier than usual because today I do have a few things I need to do kind of early today, so it's a lot easier to kind of hop on a few minutes than trying to rush through the live, and then trying to rush through the live, because I try to go, though I said for an hour, I do try to go a bit longer. Hey, no problem. And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you too, Nave. So I'm up. I'm more of a morning person, because with my job, we're contract management, and I do on occasion travel down to London. So I'm always having to be up early to travel down to London. So this tends to work a better time, because it's also very kind of quiet and peaceful time. So, and plus the good thing about this time, it is also the time that I do get the most traffic and the most engagement, compared to when I've done it I usually go to bed around 8 and then get up about 3. And then, it is the time that I do get most traffic, most engagement. Because I've tried it like at 6 and I tried it at 8, and it just never, and noon. And noon kind of works, but it doesn't, I still don't quite get the number of views that I do now. And at 6 and 8 p.m., it's really shit. Even though you would expect that there would be a lot of traffic. At 6 and 8, when I've tried it at 6 and 8, I will only get like 200 views in an hour, and it's just not worth my time to do it and then try to start to build. Hey, well, thank you for the likes. To really build that traffic up. It's just not worth it. So I just keep it at 4 because it is, and like I said today, around 4, because sometimes it works a little bit better for me to do the lives a little bit early, a little bit earlier. Like today, it gives me a bit of a chance to do it, and do like almost, probably today will be close to like an hour and a half, even though I scheduled it for an hour. It is one that will probably go for a little bit. So yeah. So if you're just joining me, do like the feed, please like, please share, and please follow. And if you do feel inclined, but don't feel as though you have to, please think it's because it really does help me to know what people like, what people enjoy, helps me to steer the conversation, and also helps me to plan my content. Yeah, it is. When I look at my analytics, it's about 90% of the traffic is UK. About 5% is US, and the remaining is kind of other, meaning it's kind of just sporadic, various other countries, but very, very strong UK with a bit of US. So it's about 90% UK, 5% US, and then it's kind of a smattering between several other countries. So I think most of my UK traffic is people on night shifts or students studying, because I do get, yesterday was a heavy amount of student traffic. All it was student related questions. And so it's, I think, a split between students and night shift people. And I think there is a few that start to get up at 4. Oh, well, thank you, Mike Ferguson. Thank you. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. So yeah, so I think it's all-nighters, and I think right now students are probably getting ready for start of the new term. So they're on break. Hey, thank you, Mike, for the finger heart. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I think students are now off. They've done their exams. So they're thinking about potential next term. Usually I will get a lot of student traffic, probably in a couple months, like March, when they start thinking about their completing their degree and graduating and what to do. And then I will probably, over the next couple months from March until about May or June, get a lot of questions. And then it will go quiet I'm with students for a couple months, and then about September and August, September, I'll get a couple more as they start looking again. So it does kind of ebb and flow a little bit with students. And also too, I will kind of in the mix, we'll get people looking at like who've done or about ready to finish their A levels and starting to look at university programs, and that usually comes again about April, May. So I will probably see a uptick April, May way with a lot of students. So well, thank you for the share, DX Vidus. Thank you for the share. So yeah, so if you do like the feed, please like, please share, please follow. If you've been, if you have a question, feel free to put it down, because today has been a very lively day. We've talked a lot about workplace situations and talked about career change, and now kind of talking a little bit about why do I live stream at 4 a.m. And so what I do say is, it is probably the time that it works the most for me. And it's an odd thing because I do get a lot of traffic at this time for it. And it, and it is a very kind of odd thing. I would think at night, but I think too, a lot of times people at night kind of are kind of looking for either shopping to get things that they can't get while they're working, or they like mindless entertainment, and so they go on looking for mindless entertainment. And careers, I think, tends to be one that people think about before they start their job or during their job. Want to forget once they leave. So that's why I tend to think this one is this one resonates at this time. So if you do like, please like, please share, and please follow. And today it's been a really lively day, which is kind of nice to have. So if you've been sending out CVs, for example, and can't understand why your CV is not getting any responses, or if you are writing your first CV because you've graduated and you don't know what to put on it because you have no job experience, put it down below, and let's see what we can do and help you. Because like I said, the purpose of today's of these live streams is to kind of give you very quick fixes. And if you do need something a bit more in depth, like getting CV support and applying and stuff over the long term, then it's best to look at my profile and get in contact that way, to see what I can do for you in a bit more longer term support. Yes, so if you are, CV without a response, put it into the comments. So again, there's like I've been doing a little bit of content on this, talking about why is it hard to find a job in the UK, and one of the things is, again, and what I can just say from experience wise, is the fact that it's CVs really need to align with the job description, especially in this very competitive market. Or if you're writing your first CV, what to put on it. So if you do have a question, so what I will say to you is, if you are writing your first CV and you just absolutely have no idea, what to put on it because you have no paid experience, again, mention down below. Let's see what we can do to kind of get you into the right frame of mind and get you, that job offer, that interview that you want, because it is usually with CVs, a lot of the stuff depends on what the issue is. It can usually be done really quickly online, and it saves you a lot of time. And the thing is, a lot of times people will come on with their CV related issues, ask, and then come back like a week or two later and say, you know what, got an interview because I made the tweaks you made, suggested, or got a job offer because of the CV, that changes you suggested. So, it is, CVs tend to be a lot easier. Where that harder part tends to be is the interview. Interviews can be really difficult, and can be really kind of hey John, thank you for the follow. Can be really competitive, and it is. Interviews can be one of these things where it's just kind of like the shake of the dice. You can go in and do the absolute best that you ever done and walk out and find out you don't get it, or you do get it. And a lot of times it's just comes down to really your competition, and how do you get yourself to really stand out in that interview. And that's one of the things that it's something I can do quickly online during a live stream, but it's easier to work with someone on a more one-to-one basis like that, to help them out with the interview tips. And so that's the one thing. And again, workplace issues I can do quickly online because there is kind of a basis for them. But I think a lot of times it's a lot easier if you are, and I do have mixed feelings on it, member of a union. They're really good at providing you workplace advice and workplace support. So if you do run into issues, they do have a bit of support there. And again, and when it comes to like university type of programs, degrees, and talking about AI, which I've kind of spent a bit of time last week talking about. Good question. I have mixed feelings on LinkedIn. Most of the jobs I ultimately get don't come from LinkedIn. So if I'm searching contracts, because I'm a contractor, technically, LinkedIn does provide a lot of opportunities to kind of keep in contact with agencies, and for agencies to find me and to talk to me. And so it works on that. But when it comes down to the real nitty gritty of where did my job come from, I didn't apply for it on LinkedIn. It may have been somebody, a recruiter who found me on LinkedIn, contacted me and say, hey, I think your, job experience matches this role. Are you interested? It's more, I would say, for me, from my own experience, LinkedIn is a great kind of marketing tool for yourself, but it's not always, and it's a good tool to kind of help you find jobs, to apply for jobs. But I don't necessarily think it is the one that, where I will ultimately get the job offer from, because it will usually come from elsewhere than LinkedIn. But the one thing I do, with that said, what I will say with LinkedIn, when it comes to other kind of like job boards, I do find LinkedIn is probably the most trustworthy one, because if you do find somebody's trying to, for lack of a better word, jerk your change with a job advert, there is ways to get it pulled, to flag it to LinkedIn, and they do take action. Whereas some of the other sites may be very lax about enforcement, because again, more traffic they get, more people they put onto CVs and stuff, the more that it gives them the marketing tool, the marketing ploy to attract more people, attract more money. And so there isn't as much incentive. But I would definitely say, out of all of them, I do like LinkedIn the best, because it does help me to kind of position myself. But the other thing I would say is, if you're like a small business trying to use LinkedIn, I probably would say, I think there are better opportunities out there to promote your business. I think there are other social media tools out there that will probably help you get in contact with your customers more than LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is more targeted to people to network. I think LinkedIn is more of a networking than a business promotion type of platform. And I think that's why it works good in a way to get contacts from agencies, because you are kind of networking and using the platform as a networking tool versus kind of a promotional tool. And I don't think it does work as well, in my opinion, from using LinkedIn on both a business and personal level. I think LinkedIn is a lot better to promote for networking than to promote yourself. So like I said, I have mixed feelings on it. It's probably, I probably have all the tools out there, probably have the best. Hey, thank you for the follow, Mr. L. I think the best, the most praise I can give would be LinkedIn. I'm not, and I do kind of like Indeed. The next one I do kind of like would be Indeed. I think Indeed is good because it does, I think, like LinkedIn, does post a lot of relevant stuff, and you can kind of see the age of it, how long it's been out. And I do get sometimes contacts from Indeed, who maybe have seen my CV on it, and also when I do apply, I will typically get replies back. Yeah, I think no, I'm kind of the same way, because I tend to ignore it because I don't always see the benefit in it, but I do try to keep an up-to-date profile because of the work I do. Because of the work I do, it keeps me in contact with potential roles. And that's where a lot of the contacts I get for roles come from. And I do find it does cut through a lot of the wait and stuff to find jobs. So I think it, if I didn't use LinkedIn, I think it probably would take me months between contracts, because it is really hard to find contracts. And all the jobs that I've had probably with over the last 6 years have, I think, pretty much came from people finding me on LinkedIn and developing relationships with recruiters and stuff off of LinkedIn. So I think it's good networking, and it's good to keep a presence on it. And I would say, it's, if you're in the process of looking for a job, especially if it's technical, or kind of middle management above LinkedIn is really good. But if you're looking a little skilled or kind of entry level, that's not a graduate level role, I don't think it's all that beneficial. So yeah. So as things are beginning to kind of wind down here, folks, it has been, I think, a really good day talking about LinkedIn, talking about career change, and spending a lot of time talking about workplace issues. Hey, Mo, good to see you. So kind of just letting it wind down a little bit. And so, like I said, I do have to really run at 5 today. Is one day where I really need to cut out at 5 because I got a few things to do. So hence the reason why I started a bit early. And so what I will do is remind, say thank you to everyone for the gifts, the likes, the shares, the follows, and the views and the questions. It's been a really amazing day with the questions. I really loved it. And to remind you that I'll be back tomorrow, 4 a.m. Greenwich Meeting Time. Also, if you do have, questions, looking for a bit of support with maybe CVs, interviews, profiles and stuff, no problem. Glad. Thank you for the comments. And really, it's Luke. It's really good to have you because you've made it really enjoyable and a very interesting and lively day. To take a look at the profile and get in contact. If you do need some support, look at the profile, get in contact that way to see what I can do in the way of help, anything ongoing. And so again, it's, remember tomorrow is a kind of open forum. I'm probably going to do again a little bit because I haven't really got a chance to get into the topics, which is great because of all the great questions I had. But again, talk a little bit about the idea and topic of why is it difficult to find a job in the UK? Because there's a lot, and then people will think it's just one thing. It's like high unemployment or something, but really there's a lot of, why aren't you getting the interviews? Why aren't you getting the offers? If you can do the interview, but you're not getting the offers, what's going on? And it is, I think, a very interesting kind of discussion because there is a lot to it. There's a lot of factors, and it is one of the things that it's one of these questions. I think it's a very interesting type of question, and I'll tell you why. Because it is one that comes up a lot, but it doesn't come up as why is it difficult to find a job in the UK. People will share their experiences and and their struggles, and it is very much, I think it's to take those experiences and kind of draw on it and really talk about kind of the multifaceted reasons, because there are multiple reasons. And by being able to really talk about it in a kind of a forum like this, as kind of more as kind of background, as we kind of either wind down, start the discussion to get questions. It is a very multifaceted reason, and it's a lot of things that you may be thinking that you're doing or may not be aware that you're doing that is, well, may be leading to not getting that job as fast enough. And that's one of the benefits of doing these live streams is to help you kind of cut that job hunting time to make that transition, maybe from one job to another, or finding a job because you may have lost it through redundancy, you're just entering the workforce, or you're just returning after a period of time due to illness or whatnot, or due to illness, maybe you've taken some time off for family and wanted to do something, or just wanted to take a sabbatical. and you just wanted to take a bit of time off, and now you want to return. And so there's a lot there. And so again, what I would encourage you to do is join me again tomorrow, 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time. And like I said, I will, as part of to give you a bit of a preview tomorrow, talk a bit more about why is it difficult to find a job, and kind of talk about the facets, and hopefully it gets more of a lively discussion again. And so I think tomorrow I'll be probably closer back to either 4:45 or between 44 for mouth is getting dry here from talking so much. I suspect right now I'll be back between 4:45 and 5 tomorrow to start. Today was a little bit unexpected because I kind of last minute was told that I needed to do something at 5, so I need to make sure that I'm off in time. So I need to do it. So hence the reason why I started a bit early. Hey, Reese, good to see you back. So yeah. So yes. So if you set a reminder, and I will talk about tomorrow why is it difficult to find a job in the UK, and tomorrow we will talk, and that will cover kind of the whole gamut: interviews, CVs, locations, because location can play a massive impact on what's available to you. And so so think about questions. If you do have questions, and I don't say this enough to people, but if you do have a question that you want me to cover for the live stream, always feel free to direct message me. But remember, it's make sure you do direct message it well in advance, because when I do get up in the morning, take a look at my messages, if I don't see it at that time and you didn't decide to message me a couple minutes before I go live, chances are I won't see it until the next live. So I would always kind of say is, it's if you do want a topic covered or a question answered, then please, let me know. And I will cover it. Like I said, there is contact information in my profile, so you can email the question, or you can likewise direct message me on TikTok with your question, and then I can pick that up for you, and and get it answered, and make sure it gets covered so you get the answer that you need. So as we kind of wind down, remember, I'll be back tomorrow, 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time, taking your questions, talking about why is it difficult to find a job in the UK, covering the gamut. And I want to say thank you to everyone for the likes, the shares, the follows, and the questions and engagement. It was just an amazing day. Thank you so much. And I will see you back tomorrow at 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time. Thank you so much. And it's been a great day, and hope you all have a great day. Thank you.